It says we're live. Hello, hello. It's Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock here in Costa Rica, 6 o'clock in Chicago, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London and most of Europe, 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning in Australia. And I had this. I think it's 11:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in New Zealand. I think that's right. And it's Facebook Live. And let's see. The first thing no, I have to wait for the okay. So I'm not going to say my special announcement until I get the okay on my phone. So with this, this is a Q&A today. All the questions that you have, send them on over. We've got a few to start with that I didn't get to last time, but there's a special intro I'm going to do. And I just have to wait until I know it is that my special guest is on. So it's going to be a couple of minutes maybe. All the questions that you have, send them on over. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that acknowledgement, let me just say hello here to Andriana's the first one here. Hi, Dr. Tom from Jacksonville, Florida. Love the drive down to St. Petersburg from Jacksonville. Did it many, many times. It's really a great drive. Hang on a minute. They're saying just started, just started. Let me let them know it just started. This is a very special moment for me. I've never done this before. So once we get the thumbs up that she's on. And Alice is here. Carol's here from St. Louis. Alice in Virginia. Cynthia says, hi, Dr. Tom in Ottawa. Thank you for that. And Gwendolyn, good morning from New Zealand. My favorite hour of the week. Oh, thank you, Gwendolyn. And what time is it there? I need to get this right about New Zealand. Somehow I got it in my memory banks about Australia, but I miss it for New Zealand. So send me a message, Gwendolyn, if you would, and let me know what time it is there. In the meantime, I don't have confirmation that my guest is here yet, but I've got a couple of questions to begin with. First question, if a woman has not detoxed, when can she start? After breastfeeding ends is the question mark. Really good question. The answer is absolutely yes. Do not do any active detox protocols when you're pregnant or when you're breastfeeding, because you will feed a lot of those toxins to baby. But you can do some simple things, such as make sure you're really well hydrated. Of course, with breastfeeding, you want to anyway, but make sure of that. And you can be doing walking for exercise, not too aggressive, not pushing too hard to get your pulse up if you're not doing that regularly. And if you're just beginning something, just go for a nice walk every day. Push the baby stroller, and do that one. Let me see if I've got confirmation that my special guest is on. I don't see it on my phone yet, so I'm going to hold off until I get confirmation that my very special guest is on. Peyton Kimball's here. Hey, Peyton, hi, nice to see you. Have you ever ran dairy zoomers on folks that eat only raw dairy? Do they show the type of damage? Really good question. I've never had anyone that has only consumed raw dairy in their lives. Have done people who consume raw dairy now, and they, I don't think one has ever come back negative, even on a raw dairy diet, because the protein structures of the raw dairy are similar enough to the pasteurized dairy protein that the immune system identified and said, we have to fight this. And so that same protein that's in pasteurized milk is also in raw milk. And once you've activated that pathway, the raw dairy proteins are not different enough to where the immune system is not activated. I'm told that my special guest will be a few minutes. There's a little bit of a meltdown. So, okay. My special guest is a young one, so we'll see when she comes on. Oh, that's really great. Errol has a question. Hi, doctor. What are the possible causes of frequent nosebleeds in kids? It seems to be much more frequent this time of year when turning AC on. Okay, that's a clue that you have to always check for mold. Mold in the house and mold in your child's nasal pathways. So little Q-tip, you go in there, and usually a doc or a nurse will do it because you got to get back in there more than mom usually is comfortable doing. And then you send it to a lab and have it analyzed. It's pretty common. Kids with recurrent ear infections, and they've been on antibiotics a number of times. Oh, I got the special message that my guest is on. My very special guest is on right now. So it's my granddaughter, Mia. And today is Mia's birthday. She is 5 years old. She is the most beautiful 5-year-old girl that I have ever seen in my life. And we're going to sing happy birthday to her. And because Mia can't see everybody who's watching this right now, if you could send hearts and bubbles and that kind of thing, she can see it on the phone, so she'll know that you're singing with us, okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mia. Happy birthday to you. Yay! Mwah! 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 Mia, Jane, I love you so much, and I'm so happy that you're 5 years old. And look at all the people that are so happy. Look at all the hearts and the happy faces of all the people that are singing to you also. That's really cool. I'm very happy. Thank you, Mia. Thank you so much. I love you so much. If you want to stay, you can stay for a while while I answer people's questions. But happy birthday, honey. Love you very much. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Bye, Mia. Happy birthday.
Okay, let's continue with our questions now. And let's see. What part of the brain does CBD, THC impact, and what is the common denominator with 5-HTP? There is, it's not a part of the brain, it's throughout the brain. It's called the endocannabinoid system. And there are receptors. Remember, receptors are like catcher's mitts, and the pitcher throws the ball to the catcher. And that's how hormones get into the cells, is by, it's like thyroid hormone goes into a thyroid receptor site that turns the doorknob to open the door for the thyroid hormone to go inside the cell. In the endocannabinoid system, substances that activate the endocannabinoid receptors, like CBD and THC, and they activate different receptors and in a different way, but they open the door to that cell to stimulate that cell to produce more anti-inflammatory chemicals. That's why CBD is really good for some people that have pain, any kind of pain. Anti-anxiety neurotransmitters get produced. That's why CBD helps people that are anxious to calm down and even make more melatonin to go to sleep at night. So it's not one area of the brain, it's the entire brain. 5-HTP is the a component that helps to activate our sleep cycle for us to relax and sleep. Is there something?
The nosebleeds for kids also low vitamin C.
Marzi just reminded me that I didn't answer the nosebleed for kids completely. I went right to mold, which is a very, very common one, but she's absolutely right. Another one is low vitamin C level. Sometimes those people that have low vitamin C causing nosebleeds, they also get black and blue. You know, they bump something and they have a black and blue mark on their arm or their leg or their chest. It's the same mechanism that causes the nosebleeds. It's weakened blood vessels. So those are the two top things I'd look for a child that is getting nosebleeds, especially when you turn the air conditioning on. Those would be my top concerns. After that, going down the checklist, I certainly would go to food sensitivities and the Zoomer tests, because as some of you know, the Zoomer tests are much more accurate than any other test out there for food allergies. Some of the other tests are good, but they're not as comprehensive as the Zoomer is. Wheat Zoomer, dairy Zoomer, corn Zoomer, lectin Zoomer, all of those. So thank you all, everyone, for sharing with me the happy birthday for my granddaughter. I hope that was great for her. I hope so. Rena asked the question, hi doctor, I'm 33, have severe cough. Nothing showed in the CAT scan. I stopped dairy and gluten. Could H. pylori cause a cough? What should I do? Very good question. The approach is always to look for the trigger, the environmental trigger for whatever symptoms we have. And you've already looked at dairy and gluten. You've stopped them, hopefully completely, not just reduced, but completely. And certainly doing a dairy and wheat and dairy Zoomer would help to identify if those sensitivities are there. There's something that's causing the tickle, the cough. It easily could be in the air. It could be mold in the house. Once again, it's so very, very common to see. It could be, especially if the cough seems to be more often in your home, or you only cough at work. If it's not consistent throughout the day, think of what environment you're in. But that's where I would go. I would go to the Zoomers and to the air. Check the air for mold and check for food sensitivities. From Shanquilla. Hello, Shanquilla. How do I check for mold in nasal cavity? Regular doc, ear, nose, and throat doctor. Also, is black pepper full of mold? I don't know that black pepper is full of mold. I don't think so. We know, of course, peanuts are very commonly, and coffee can be very commonly. That's why you want organic and consciously prepared coffee beans. I don't know about black pepper. It may be a problem. I just don't know on that one. And doing the nasal swab for mold in the nose, any pediatrician should be able to do it. They might not think about it at first, but if you want to be certain that they'll do the test when you take your child in, just Google nosebleeds and mold, and just pull up a study or two and take it in and say, hey, you know, I was listening to this doctor talk, and that sometimes this could be the trigger for recurrent nosebleeds. So can we just do the test? You know, it's a really simple, inexpensive test to do. So they should be able to do it. Any pediatrician's lab should have. It's the equipment is a Q-tip, but it's a long stemmed Q-tip that goes in a tube afterwards, so it stays sterile. But every pediatrician's office should have that. From Kathy, hi from Colorado. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Kathy. Would you speak about FPIES? I've just been diagnosed, also autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, after healing from COVID. How can we improve our immune system? I'm having a rough go of it. Sorry to hear you're having a rough go. And how do we improve our immune system from COVID? That's really a comprehensive question. I just did a webinar today. It was 4:30 in the morning for me because it was in India. It was at 7 o'clock at night, but for me, it was 4:30 in the morning. Just went through that, but it took a good half hour to talk about that one. But there's some basics, and I think we've got some videos. I think Anne will look and see if she can pull up a video that we can post the link to here, talking about how to build the immune system. I've done some talks on it. We've got a package of nutrients that can that are really helpful. Vitamin D, vitamin C, there's a couple of others in there. So it's an extensive question, Kathy, on how to improve your immune system function. I guess the first thing you would do is a vitamin D test. We'll post the link here for the vitamin D test. You order the test, it's inexpensive. You poke your finger, put a drop on the card, let it dry, send it back in, you get your results in, I think it's 5 business days, and you find out exactly what your vitamin D level is. Critically important for immune system function. So many different branches of your immune system are completely dependent on vitamin D to function normally. And regarding the food protein-induced enterocolitis syndrome, so it means that your colon has an itis, it's inflamed. Okay, so what foods are causing that inflammation? That is, and even after a viral exposure that may bring this on, you had to have been on the threshold, most likely, of crossing the line of tolerance for some particular foods. And the virus may have made you more sensitive. So now is the time when you're feeling these symptoms to get the Zoomers done. And there's a number of different Zoomers: wheat Zoomer, dairy Zoomer, corn Zoomer, lectin Zoomer. There are a number of different Zoomers, and the lab has some different packages. You know, you get 3 or 4 and they give you 1 free and all of that kind of thing. It's all laid out on our website. We'll put the link here for you so you can choose which package is right for you. But absolutely do it now while you're inflamed. So, and then when you cool down, so you'll get rid of all of those foods, whatever they are. And when your system cools down and you're symptom free, I'd wait at least 6 months before checking again. And then I'd check to see those same tests. Are they all negative now? And if you've been squeaky clean for 6 months and 5 of 6 of them are negative, I'm making up a number, 5 or 6 of the 6 are negative, then okay, don't eat that 6th food, but reintroduce the other 5 foods. 1 at a time over the course of a week, maybe a little bit today, a little bit more tomorrow, a little bit more the day after. Reintroduce each food slowly. See how you feel with the reintroduction of each food. Then after you've done, good 3-4 weeks of the foods you've reintroduced, then you do the test again, because you'll see if you've activated the immune system to fight. And now you'll know one of the weak links in your chain when you have inflammation is your gut, food-induced enterocolitis syndrome, right? Dwin says, I'm doing so well since I've been following you. Great, Dwin. I'm living a much better life. My question is, how long does it take to get alcohol out of your system? If it's been several years, is it all gone? Oh, that's really an interesting question. You know, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I can tell you that I started doing saunas back in 1972. And I remember because I was a sophomore, University of Michigan, and there was an apartment complex close by. They had a sauna down in the basement. It was only for the use of those apartment dwellers. One of my friends lived there, so we'd go in and do saunas. And as I was doing those, I learned about this whole system of detoxification using saunas. And there was a doctor in the 1960s came up with this whole system of detoxing people, heroin addicts, drug addicts, alcoholics, and he'd put them through his system. And if they were alcoholics, it was 8 hours a day of sauna, 6 days a week. No exaggeration. You sauna for 30 minutes, walk around a track, if you're indoors, walk around a track for 15 minutes, sit and rest and drink water and hydrate for 15 minutes. Sauna for 30, walk for 15, sit and hydrate for 15. 8 hours a day. And when I got into practice and I started implementing this, I thought, well, you know, I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so I can do this Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. So I started to do it. And in the first week, maybe the beginning of the second week, I'd say something to my staff and they say, well, doc, we just answered that question 5 minutes ago. I said, no, you didn't. Yes, you asked us 5. No, I didn't. And then it would happen again where I was not remembering what had happened just a few minutes ago. And it happened with my wife. And I said, no, you didn't. And she looked at me and said, stop the saunas. Stop now. Just like that to get through. And okay. And I was losing my short-term memory because I was detoxing too fast. And that gave me a great respect for how to detox safely. But people who go through this detox program, and it was the Scientologists that copycatted this doctor in California's whole protocol. They put it together for their detox routine, and they charge thousands and thousands of dollars for people to do this. It's the same, complete same thing. And I don't recommend people do this alone. So it's a good idea to be monitored, someone with you when you're doing this, because you start flushing out these toxic chemicals that have been accumulating in your body for a lifetime. And you can have some side effects. You can. So the question was, I've been doing so well, how long does it take to get the alcohol out? Oh, yeah. So, when I put people on detox programs, they'd start reeking of alcohol. And they hadn't had a drink in months, but they'd reek of alcohol. I had done LSD when I was a teenager, and my detox, I had some mini trips again. I said, whoa, look at this. That's unusual, but it was in my system for 20 years or more. I don't know. So these drugs that we're exposed to, either in the air, in our food supply, or that we take orally, they have residue that sticks around for a while. But certainly, Dwayne, in terms of how long does it take to get the alcohol out of your system, depending on how aggressive you're being, I don't think that it should take very long at all. Now, there may be some residue that comes up for months and months and months, but it shouldn't be enough to have any impact on you. You shouldn't feel any noticeable, oh, wow, I feel like I've had a drink. Or you shouldn't have any of that. If so, then there's something else that's being flushed out besides the alcohol. Colin's here from the UK. Hi, Colin. Thanks so much for staying up so late. If one has genetic markers for Alzheimer's, does this mean that you will get the condition in later life? Or is there other factors that can reduce the risk? Great question. It's one that I love to answer because this is a really good example. I'm going to close the door because the baby's talking a lot. Okay. I use the example of the Alzheimer's genes. The most common Alzheimer's gene is ApoE4. And I use that example a lot. That Professor Fasano, Alessio Fasano, the chair of pediatric gastroenterology at Harvard, the director of the Mucosal Immunology Center at Harvard, the director of Celiac Center at Harvard. This guy has so many credentials. He tells us that there are 5 pillars in the development of any disease, including Alzheimer's. And those 5 pillars are, the first one is your genes. And your genes are the deck of cards that you were dealt in life. You really can't do anything about that, about your genes. That's just the deck of cards that you were dealt. But genes don't, if you have a gene, you're not going to get the disease for more than 70% of the diseases that are associated with genes. You're not going to get the disease if you have the gene. It's not mandated. You are vulnerable to getting the disease if you carry the gene. It's the weak link in your chain. When you pull at a chain, it always breaks at the weakest link. It could be at one end, the middle, the other end, your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidneys. That weak link is determined by your genes and how you've lived your life. So what's really important in that to understand is that, the Fasano's thing. So first is the genes. The second pillar, the first one's the genes. The second pillar is environmental triggers. Now that means, and the most common environmental trigger is what's on the end of your fork, but also the air you breathe, the thoughts you have that produce hormones and brain hormones called neurotransmitters. That's internal environment, but still environmental triggers. The structure that we have, electromagnetic pollution. These are the environmental triggers, the categories that we have to look at. That's number two. And these environmental triggers activate the gene or not. Scientists talk about modulation of genes. That's a geek word. What it means is genes work on a dimmer switch and not an on-off switch. You don't turn the genes on or off. You turn the dimmer switch up, you upregulate, or you turn the dimmer switch down, you downregulate. So depending on the gene, do you want it to be upregulated, like an anti-inflammatory gene, or a healthy, vibrant, energy-producing cell? You want more of those kinds of cells? Or is it the gene for Alzheimer's, which is inflammation and brain vulnerability, and the inflammation kills off brain cells and all of that? So understand they're dimmer switches. What that means is that every single environmental trigger you're exposed to triggers your inflammation genes to turn up, to upregulate, or your inflammation genes to turn down, and your anti-inflammation genes turn up. Every single environmental exposure we have. Do you think it's okay to go into a restaurant, and I'll pick a city in New Orleans, where there's been a history of so many floods? Do you think it's okay to go into a restaurant in New Orleans when you walk in the door, you say, oh, it smells moldy in here? Do you think it's okay to go in there and sit down for an hour to 2-3 hours breathing mold? No, it's not. I mean, it's the way I treat hotel rooms because I travel so much. I've been flying all day, rental car, drive to the hotel late at night now, tired from traveling all day, go to the front desk, check in, take my roller bag, go in the elevator, up to the whatever floor, walk down the hall, take the key, put it in the door, unlock the door, open the door. I leave my roller bag in the hall. I take 2 steps in, close the door behind me, and I go, no. And then I just turn around and walk back out. And then I have to take my roller bag, go back to the elevator, back down to the ground level, back to the front desk, ask the guy for a different room. And I'm tired, but I'll do that because I've learned, well, it's not that bad. I can stay here for 2 days, or I can stay here overnight. Really? Really? You think it's not that bad? You're going to lay in a moldy room for 6 hours or 7 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is and think it's not going to have an effect? How important is your health to you? That's the way you have to look at it. Now, I'm going to share my screen here for a minute because I want to show you a slide. And so we're going to share this screen. There we go. And I'm going to bring this one up. And I'm going to show you this slide. I love this slide. This is about Alzheimer's. You can see at the bottom that this comes from Health and Human Services. And they had an advisory council meeting about what's the government going to do about Alzheimer's, right? Because it's just going up, skyrocketing up. And they came up with this drawing. And what they talked about was that there is a normal level of antibodies to your brain tissue. I mean, well, wait a minute. Why would there be a normal level of antibodies to your brain tissue? Because you build, Mrs. Patient, you have an entire new body every 7 years. Every cell regenerates, some really fast, some really slow, but every cell regenerates. Well, how does that happen? You have to get rid of the old and damaged cells to make room for the new cells. That means antibodies to get rid of the old and damaged cells. It's called apoptosis. Get rid of the old cells and the debris of the old cells when they die off, make room for the new cells. That's normal. When you do a blood test, like for thyroid hormone, the usual reference range is 0 to 40, maybe 42, depending on the lab. And so you've got 35 antibodies that are measured, 35 antibodies to your thyroid. That's the normal range. What that means is that you're killing off as many cells as you're making. So you're good. It's a positive balance. But when you get elevated antibodies, you're killing off more cells than you're making. That's a negative balance. That's Alzheimer's. I'll show you. First, understand there's a normal level of antibodies to all of our tissue, every tissue of your body that regenerates, every cell regenerates. This is how it happens. Then, because of our lifestyle, we're exposed to toxins in the air, diesel fume exhaust if you live close to a freeway or not, or if you live in one of these cities like Missoula, Montana, or Denver, where they have inversions in the winter, and so the smog stays kind of pocketed within the mountain area there, and your air pollution is very high most of the winter. You're taking in these environmental toxins, right? Or you had a flood and you cleaned the place, but you didn't really clean it thoroughly, and you thought you did, but you didn't. And the drywall in the basement, now it's all dried out, looks good. You got rid of the carpet, put new carpet down, but the drywall got wet. So the backside of the drywall is now growing mold, and you can't see it, but you're breathing it every day. In other words, we're exposed to these environmental triggers, and inflammation starts to happen, and then you lose tolerance. You eat too many of the foods that your body says, I'm not so good with this, I'm not so good with this, and you just keep eating it and eating it. You get more exposure to bacteria and LPS, the exhaustive bacteria, because you have a leaky gut. Environmental exposures, you lose tolerance to the amount of mold that your immune system can fight, that you're breathing in. EMF pollution, we're all bombarded now by more EMF pollution than ever in history. It's all of us, because there's literally thousands of satellites that have been launched in the last couple of years, coincidental with this virus. I won't talk about that, but thousands of satellites completely blanketing the Earth in 5G now, completely blanketing the Earth. It's electromagnetic pollution that we're all getting all the time, 24/7. The emotional stress of unresolved things in our lives that can eat away at us, structural loss, joint problems, and all of that. All of these sensitivities that develop, and you lose tolerance. So now you have more antibodies than what you should. You get elevated levels of antibodies. That's what the Zoomer tests are, is looking for antibodies. Now, with that, we'll skip that. For 20 years, this is going on, elevated levels of antibodies, in this example to your brain, for 20 years, and you don't have any symptoms. This is called the prodromal stage. Prodromal means before symptoms, leads the way. So you have increased inflammation, you're killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, until eventually you start getting some symptoms. Now those symptoms are, where did I park my car in the parking lot? Or what was it that I came here to buy at the store? I was supposed to get 3 things. Butter, eggs, and what was the other thing? Where's my keys? All these things that we take for granted is short-term memory loss. That's why it's so important that everyone does this test, this smell test. We'll put a link in there for the smell test. Look at this. Look at the bottom of the mild cognitive impairment section. The symptoms are short-term memory loss and hyposmia, a loss of your sense of smell. So you get this little test kit, you scratch the bottom there like for a lottery ticket, and you smell it. And the question is, does it smell like tomato, menthol, strawberry, or licorice? And you answer it in the blue section. Then you go to the next one, scratch it, smell it. Is it cherry, honey, lime, or whiskey? And you answer in the yellow box. Then the next one, scratch it and smell it. Is it baby powder, banana, chili, or cloves? mark it. You go through all 12 of them, and at the end, here's the answer key. And so you score it. How did you do? If you score 10 or above, you're fine. Don't worry about it. If you score 9 or below, you're losing your sense of smell. And it has nothing to do with your nose. It's a measure of your memory, the memory center in your brain. Because the nerves of smell are the only nerves in the body that go directly back, uninhibited, no filters. The only nerves that get into the brain with no filters are the nerves of smell, the olfactory nerves. And when you're starting to lose your sense of smell, hyposmia, you got a problem. Unfortunately, it doesn't begin, hyposmia doesn't begin usually until you're in mild cognitive impairment. Now, it's happening for a lot of people with this virus that we're currently exposed to, because the virus is going up to the brain, right into the brain through smell. So this test, this simple smell test, is such a helpful tool to let you know you need to address this right now. But then look at mild cognitive impairment. How long does this go on? On average, 7 years. Oh yeah, I'm getting older. I don't remember like I used to. It took me a while to find my car in the parking lot. Well, how old are you? I'm 38. No, that's not supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen. And then it progresses to mild Alzheimer's. Oh, before we get to mild, this is the window right here where it's not difficult to address this. Is fairly straightforward how to turn around the inflammation that's going on in your brain. It's straightforward. But the problem is but most people are not motivated to do this until they get to mild Alzheimer's. By then, look at how much of the brain is being affected from the inflammation in the drawing. We certainly can do it, but it's a battle. It's a much more difficult battle. We have the prodromal period and mild cognitive impairment period that's so much easier to work with. Now I'm going to stop sharing the screen now because I just wanted to show you that, because that is, I've just given you an hour session with me to explain this. And so you just saved yourself hundreds and hundreds of dollars, Colin, if you're listening to this. So if this doesn't kick you in the pants to follow our recommendations, get my book, You Can Fix Your Brain. Get the book. This is the book. It's all outlined in here, what so many of the environmental triggers are, what tests need to be done and all that, and work with my team or work with someone who is confident and knows what the heck they're doing. Address this now, and you'll be sitting on your porch in your 80s or 90s in your rocking chair reading Sherlock Holmes. I'm reading Sherlock Holmes right now. Reading Sherlock Holmes and just smile, say, thanks, Doc. 30 years ago, I listened to you. Thanks. And I'll feel that. So hopefully I gave you a kick in the pants. Rajendra says, certain foods that no doubt disagree with my gut then results in a lot of anxiety for me, need to burp frequently and feel I could fall over, as well as feeling a gel-like pulsation pressing against my skull. What is going on? Suspect the gut-brain connection where every message from the gut is swamped by 9 messages. Every message from the gut, every message in the brain is swamped by 9 messages from the gut. That's exactly right, Rajendra. You've been listening. Good for you. But your symptoms strongly suggest you need to do the Neural Zoomer Plus. We'll put the link in here now. The Neural Zoomer Plus looks at 48 different markers of inflammation in the brain, and it's going to come back positive. And there may be 15, 20, because the symptoms you're talking about are likely cerebellar degeneration, an area of your brain. For every person that I've checked that had elevated antibodies to wheat, 26% of them had elevated antibodies to the cerebellum in their brain. And what that causes when you've got cerebellar inflammation and cerebellar degeneration is, you said it, I feel I could fall over, as well as feeling a gel-like pulsation pressing against my skull. So that's pretty common. So my recommendation to you is you get that test done right away and you work with someone, my team or whoever you like, that knows how to interpret the test and knows what to do with it. It's a very comprehensive test. The slides I just showed you were from my talk to a few hundred neurologists about, and they just looked and they said, what? I didn't know that. I didn't know that, right? So not everybody knows what to do with this, Rajenda, but I would suggest you get this right away. Actually, I'd suggest you do the Wheat Zoomer and the Neural Zoomer Plus. Now there's a Neural Zoomer, but the Neural Zoomer Plus. The Neural Zoomer looks at 8 different markers of brain inflammation. The Neural Zoomer Plus looks at 48. Get the Neural Zoomer Plus. Can you recommend, Melissa says, can you recommend a clean coffee bean that's been mold tested? Yes, yes, Brain Bean. Go to brain-bean.com, Brain Bean. And they have a very special coffee. Their regular coffee is what Marzi and I drink most every day. And they have a special coffee called Zen Blend. And there are a couple ingredients added to it that enhance brain function. It's really quite special. Now, I'll be talking about that a lot more in the future about Brain Bean's products, but that is the coffee. And we're here in Costa Rica, and our Costa Rican friends come over and, we make coffee. They go, oh, good coffee. Is that from a local farm? I said, no, it's from Nevada. So that's where Brain Bean ships from, is Nevada. Wanda says, I recently read that eggs, because of fat and cholesterol, are not good for cancer patients. Is that true? It depends on the patient. There are many reasons why eggs are really good for you, and there are many reasons why eggs may not be good for you. Perhaps one of the more accepted reasons why eggs may not be good for you when you're dealing with cancer is eggs can increase your level of TMAO, trimethylamine oxidase, geek word. TMAO is because of the choline and the carnitine in the eggs. When you eat foods that are high in choline and carnitine, like eggs, depends on your microbiome. If you have too many of the wrong type of bacteria in your gut, too many bad guys, not enough good guys, they can convert the choline and the carnitine to trimethylamine and TMA. And then TMA in your bloodstream goes to the liver and it gets converted to TMAO. And it is jet fuel on the fire. It's not gasoline on fire, it's jet fuel on a fire for cardiovascular disease and for cancer. So if you were my patient, I'd check your TMAO level. I'd also check your urine amino acid level to see how you're doing with amino acids overall. How much protein are you getting? So I'd check those and then determine, and I'd also do the egg zoomer. That's the most important one, would be the egg zoomer. If your immune system is making antibodies to eggs, you're not eating eggs. That's it. So that's how I would look at that, Wanda. Navtej says, will a supplement K help for sudden nosebleeds? Possibly. If there's a vitamin K insufficiency or deficiency, yep, that would help. Cynthia says, what area does 5-HTP activate in the brain? And is there a similarity or correlation with CBD and melatonin? There's not just one area, Cynthia. It's through certainly the frontal lobes, and I'm not a neurologist, so I can't tell you about other areas. I know that it works in the frontal lobes and it helps for relaxation and sleep patterns. And is there a similarity or correlation with CBD and melatonin? Yes, there is. They're very similar. Usually I would start with melatonin because there are so many studies that show benefits of melatonin in anti-cancer prevention, anti-angiogenesis, meaning the blood vessels that develop around cancer, around tumors and things. Melatonin's got a lot of benefits for you. So I'd start there. If it doesn't work, then I'd go to CBD. If that doesn't work, then I'd go to 5-HTP. Angie says, moving into a home, can an oven ever really be made gluten safe for someone extremely sensitive? A lot conflicting info online that self-clean cycles will do it. I'm not an expert on this. I am an expert on gluten, And my experience says that if you really clean the oven, not just push a button to self-clean it, but you get in there with a brush, because the concern is any residue, now there's not going to be any gluten on the top of the oven, but if something spilled or baked and it rose and it fell over onto the plate, the pan on the bottom, you really want to clean those very, very well. And I would not hesitate in saying it's okay to use your oven once you've done a good clean job. I'd probably even, yeah, I guess I would. First you do a self-clean, then I'd get the oven spray stuff that's just terrible chemicals, and I rarely use them. We use terrible chemicals just yesterday, though we did, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you just wear a mask, you spray that thing, you let it sit in there, or you hire someone to come in and clean if you have a health concern, and you wipe it all down. Then I wouldn't have a hesitancy in saying it's okay to use the oven. Not at all. We're here in Costa Rica, and there is a black ant. It was unbelievable yesterday. All of a sudden, there were thousands of ants on the walls outside, and we were sitting outside by the pool, thousands, and we just, holy cow. And as I looked, you could see a line. It was one line of ants. They followed the straight line, and they got into the house. And we called our friends, and he came over right away. And yeah, black ants. They come in, and they go in all the crevices behind the walls. They grab the eggs of spiders and other ants, and they take them out, and they're gone in 2 hours. And he said, don't walk. They leave humans alone unless you're standing in their path and they walk over you or something. But they urinate and they burn. It's an acidic thing that burns. They don't bite. So just don't walk on them. Don't walk on their path, and you're fine. But he sprayed around the house, and I said, well, I've got a baby here. I don't want ants in this house like this when we're sleeping. And so he sprayed around the house, and then we left for the day. We had all the fans on and to blow out the residue of the spray. I don't use mosquito spray on or anything like that. But when I saw literally tens of thousands of ants, and then last night they came back again, but they didn't go anywhere where it was sprayed. And they're just walking out there. And so I'm sitting outside watching the sunset, seeing this line of ants go by, and literally tens of thousands of them. And I thought, this is the power of nature. Nobody can last against tens of thousands of ants. No animal can. And my friend said they've seen these ants just climb all over a scorpion and kill a scorpion. Was, oh good, they're my friends, because we don't like scorpions. But just watching these ants just marching along gave me an appreciation for nature. And yeah, I'll just stop there on that one. Okay. So Angie, clean the oven. Have somebody clean the oven, with a can of the oven spray stuff, and then don't hesitate. You would be fine. Quincy says, what inspired you to move to Costa Rica? I know you used to practice in Chicago. We're in Iowa, and we'd love to have you closer. Oh, thanks, Quincy. That's really kind of you. My wife doesn't want to live in the US. That was the bottom line, and she's more important to me. Patricia said, when I had H. pylori, I coughed severely, constantly for over 3 months before being diagnosed with a breath test. I threw up basins of phlegm frequently every day. 1 month of extremely strong antibiotics, unfortunately, cleared it out. Yeah, thanks, Patricia, for sharing that. That is a concern. Shanquilo says, what causes one to have TGF-beta, and what can you do to lower it? It's an inflammatory cytokine. So where's the inflammation coming from? It's just your immune system responding, trying to protect you from something. TGF-beta is not the problem. The environmental trigger that's causing an elevation of TGF-beta is the problem. Kat's here. She said, just got DEXA scan results back. I have osteoporosis, as does my mother and grandmother. And the test said my hip density was the same as last time, but the spine had decreased significantly. I'm vegan. I'm starting new vegan bone support supplements tomorrow. But what else besides weight-bearing exercises that I do can I do to help stop this? Good question. There's an exercise, a plate that people stand on, and the plate vibrates, and that's been shown to increase bone density in terms of an aerobic, not aerobic, but in a stand-up exercise. Very helpful. But the first thing I do, Kat, is I do a urine amino acid test. And to see, so many vegetarians and vegans are protein depleted. And they're eating lots of grains and beans and things, but they're protein depleted. And that protein depletion will cause osteoporosis and will accelerate osteoporosis. So you have to look and see, you need a complete overview. Is my food choice lifestyle supporting my body? If it is, great. Then you look for other triggers for the advancement of the osteoporosis. Also, when your spine is accelerating significantly in osteoporosis, you have to check for heavy metals, because we store heavy metals in our bones over a lifetime of minute exposures. The brain says, get this out of the bloodstream, and it gets thrown in the bones, especially lead. So make sure you do a proper heavy metal test in this period of exploration. And there's 3 types of tests you can do for heavy metals. A blood test is really good to identify what you've been exposed to in the last 2 weeks, not more than that. So it's useless for long-term accumulative exposure. A hair analysis, you can use 1 inch of hair from the nape of the neck, and that's about 2 months worth of growth, and anything that's in any minerals or metals in your bloodstream in the 2 months will be recorded in your hair. So that's a 2-month measure, useless for long-term accumulation. Then you can do a urine test. You take a chelating substance. It's like a magnet that pulls heavy metals out of storage. You take a chelating substance, and then you collect the urine. Now you start talking turkey. So you take this magnet to pull stuff out of storage, and then you measure and see what you got. Make sure that you're doing a heavy metal test in the midst of your investigation for osteoporosis. But please, please, please check, do a comprehensive overview, do a SpectraCell and a urine amino acid test to confirm that your current eating style is working for you, because you have a degenerative disease that's advancing. And as you said, significantly. So it's advancing. So something you're doing isn't working right. And so let's not make this a mind game or a judgment game of what diets are right and wrong. Just check and see the results of what you're currently doing. And some people won't do that. They won't check because they believe strongly in their, well, I'm going to be keto. Keto's good for me. It keeps me strong. And no, you check to see if keto is working for you or not. Well, no, I believe in it. Or I believe in paleo. No, I believe in vegan. No, I believe in vegetarian. It doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is the results of what you're doing right now as to whether you need to change something or not. Excuse me for being so in your face, but you're here, so you get it. Jennifer says, how can I lower Saccharomyces cerevisiae antibodies? Well, the immune system is making the antibodies because you have too high a concentration, or you've crossed the threshold of Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which means you have to rebuild your microbiome. Critically important, and perhaps systemic also, but you have to rebuild your microbiome. You don't get rid of S. cerevisiae antibodies, you get rid of the excessive yeast in your system. Cynthia says, did everything work out with the ants? Oh, thank you. No, they came back yesterday and we had to use the spray. That's what I was talking about. We had to use the spray yesterday. They came back about 5-6 days later. And I'm very impressed with them. And, you know, you see them walking out of the house and they got these white eggs, and you see the ants, little ants that are in our house. There's no way not to have these little ants here. But when the black ants come, the little ants, they go on the wall, like 1,000 of them, and they're in a circle about this big. I'm not exaggerating, about 1,000 ants packed in there really tight, and they have all these little white things. Well, the white things are their eggs, and they're hiding with their eggs. And the black ants will kill a little ant if it's by itself, but they won't attack the herd or the swarm or whatever it's called. So it's really interesting to see that. Last week we had a swarm there, a swarm there, a swarm there, about 6 or 7 swarms in our bedroom. I said, wow, where did all these come from? So what did I do? I took the vacuum cleaner and I just sucked them all up with their eggs, and I put the vacuum cleaner outside. I didn't know what to do, right? But that got them out and their eggs out. And but they came back yesterday. The black ants came back yesterday. They wanted a second scan of the house. Rhonda asks, have I been exposed to mold? Yes, I have, Rhonda. In the home I lived in Southern California, it's why I moved when I did, is I did a test and realized, oh, I thought it was not a problem, but it was. And like my friend, Dr. Jill Carnahan, who is the go-to in the world on mold, when Jill found out, she left that day. She never went back. She didn't get the clothes. She didn't get her books. She didn't get anything. I don't have any of my books. I don't have any of my clothes. I don't have anything. Just, you know, I came to Costa Rica with one suitcase about a year, about 14 months ago, one little suitcase. Did you use a moisture meter in the room around windows and the wall? No, I did not. Faina says, hi, Dr. Tom, what should I do if I burp all day long, even when I'm not eating food? I have Hashimoto's, also my ankles are swollen. There's something going on, Faina. It easily could be a Helicobacter infection. It could be a hydrochloric acid deficiency, a digestive enzyme imbalance of one type or another, but you need an evaluation of your digestive tract. You can work with our team or someone like us to do an evaluation. Marjorie said, my sense of smell diminished after having 4 types of chemo. Will the smell test still be useful for me? Yeah. It's also a biomarker, Marjorie, that what's come back. So right now, if you do this and you score 6 out of 12, which is not good, but then you do it again and you're doing the protocols to be healthy. I'm assuming you're here, you're watching all this. You do it again in 6 months and now you score 8. Hey, my olfactory nerves are regrowing. They're getting better. You know, there's no reason why not. Every cell in your body regenerates, every single cell. Some are really slow, but every single cell regenerates. Kathleen says, is the chart on the book? Don't know what you're referring to. Can't answer that one. Portia says, I've always had really good sense of smell. I can smell things that other people can't unless I point it out. Is this a good thing? Yes, absolutely. Humans have a remarkable sense of smell that we never develop in our lives. We just don't develop. Tammy says, can gluten sensitivity, eating gluten when you have gluten sensitivity, cause lower blood pressure? Yes, yes. If you go to the Gluten Summit, and I think we have the best of the Gluten Summit. I think Dr. Mark Houston's in the best of the Gluten Summit. But if you go to the Gluten Summit, my interview with cardiologist, Dr. Mark Houston from Vanderbilt University, he talks about that. He's the director of the Hypertension Institute at Vanderbilt. Dawn Hudson says, what about matcha? I thought it's not supposed to cause jitters, but I've woken up anxious the last few days after I started adding matcha to my morning smoothies. Listen to your body. Body language never lies. Nothing except water is good for everyone. Does eating coconut oil help with Alzheimer's? Yes, there's some really good evidence that the MCT, the medium chain triglycerides, that's some of the oils that are in coconut, are really good to help your brain function better. But you have to stop the fire. If you heard me talking earlier to Colin in England about brain function and Alzheimer's genes, and if you saw the slides I went through, you can't keep living the lifestyle that's causing the inflammation. Excuse me, just a minute. You can't keep living the lifestyle causing the inflammation and take coconut oil and think you're going to be okay. You have to identify how bad is it right now so that you have a marker and that's the Neural Zoomer Plus. So you have a marker in 6 months after you start applying the protocols in my book or talking to my team or another doctor. In 6 months, you do the test again to see, okay, is it getting better? And it's going to take a year, 2 years to calm this thing down if you have a number of markers on the Neural Zoomer Plus that are elevated. It's going to take a while to calm things down. But don't think that just taking coconut oil or just taking goji berries or just taking any one thing is going to stop the direction your brain deterioration is going. Companies want you to think that, so you buy their product. Lots of studies talk about coconut oil as being good for you. I think it is. Yeah, it's a good tool. Remember, base hits win the ball game. This one might even be a double, but it's not going to stop the momentum. Sophia says, please, is cataract reversible? I don't know that I've ever seen that, Sophia. I don't know. Nope, I have no experience with that one. Dwayne says, my friend was diagnosed with scleroderma, psoriatic arthritis. She has to have transfusions. Is there help for this condition? Of course, yeah, of course there's help. Any autoimmune disease, there's help. Read my book, The Autoimmune Fix. Dwayne, if your friend reads my book, they'll understand how they got here to where they are and the process of identifying environmental triggers so they stop fueling the fire. Terry Boyle says, coconut oil for ApoE4s. I'm told no, only pure C8 MCT oil. MCT oil is from coconut. I don't know why coconut oil would be a problem. I've not seen a study that says that. I tell my ApoE4 patients to keep a little coconut oil in the shower in a little dispenser of some type. And you put a little in your mouth while you're taking a shower. You're swishing it around. It's called oil pulling, like that. You're just swishing it around while you're in the shower. And you're in the shower for 5 minutes or so, and shampoo and all that, wiping down. And then you just spit it down the drain. Some people say, don't spit it down the drain, put it in paper towel in the garbage. I said, that's probably better, but I'm in the shower. So if you can do it in a paper towel and throw it in the garbage, that's probably better. But to me, it's more important to have a protocol that you're doing on a regular basis than not doing the protocol. Joanne says, hi, Dr. Tom. Thanks for hosting this. I'm a 4-year breast cancer survivor. Way to go, girl. Among other things, my doc advised me take omega-3s. My EPA level is high. My DH level is good. Logic says I should find a brand with less EPA. They're hard to find. Is there an ideal ratio of EPA to DHA? Really good question. Go to brain-bean.com and do their omega-3 test. It's a little finger prick test. You order it, they ship it to you. You do a little finger prick test, and you find out what your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is. And it's a really good marker for the brain. They've got a great explanation for it, and you'll find out how much EPA and DHA. They'll actually tell you by your test results how much EPA, DHA you should take. Bonnie says, hi, Dr. Tom, my ANA is positive. What could this mean, and can food intolerances contribute to this? My food sensitivity test showed very high intolerances to dairy and egg whites. ANA means anti-nuclear antibodies. So your immune system is making antibodies to attack the nucleus of your cells. What cells? Any cell, every cell. It doesn't matter. It's highly associated with musculoskeletal autoimmune diseases like scleroderma, systemic lupus, things like that. But for me, every ANA patient we have, they need to learn about detox, because there's something in the nucleus of your cells. Mercury goes into the nucleus of the cell. Some of the petrochemicals go down into the nucleus of the cell. So your immune system is attacking that nucleus because it's all full of toxic crud. And so you've got to include a focus on detox. Hard to do by yourself. You really need someone to guide you through that. But that's what you need to do. You know, it's unfortunate that so many of these things, you know, I'm trying to figure out a way to guide people without, and I don't know how to do it without saying, you need someone that really knows what they're doing. Because with elevated ANA antibodies, one study came out, 480, I think it was 486 people with positive ANA antibodies, no other diagnosis. Within 3 years, 87% of them were diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Lupus was most common. So you may have a little window here before there's so much damage, so many cells that are killed off. Now you start getting a lot more symptoms, and now you get diagnosed with the autoimmune disease. Did you say you already had Hashimoto's? No, you did not. You've got food intolerances. So I would do the Neural Zoomer plus the Wheat Zoomer, and you already know about dairy and egg, but I do those two just to have a baseline, and then I'd start a detox protocol. Slow and easy, but you have to have someone that knows what they're doing to guide you with this one, Bonnie. Rhonda asks, can having high immunoglobulins be due to autoimmune disease or mold exposure? Well, sure. When you have elevated IgA or IgG or IgM, that's the immunoglobulins, that's special forces. Those are the special forces of the Army, the Navy, the Marines, that are there to protect you. They're elevated for a reason. The question is, what are the environmental triggers that are setting it off? You know, I make it sound so simple, and it's so much more complicated than this, but it's the simple, basic concepts that Professor Fasano talks about in the 5 pillars: genetics, environmental triggers, altered microbiome, creating dysbiosis, intestinal permeability, leaky gut, and systemic immune response, ANA antibodies, Hashimoto's, lupus, psoriasis. That's the systemic immune response that always comes from this process. So you have to go back to this process, and it's the 3 in the middle, not the genes. It's nice to know what the genes are, but you know, that's not going to make a big difference in fixing it. We want to dim down those genes if you have them, of course, but it's the 3 in the middle: environmental triggers, altered microbiome, intestinal permeability. That's where we have to put a great deal of our attention to turn around the direction that your health is going. Okay, I'm 10 minutes over, and my dinner is waiting. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Please, you know, I know you appreciate this. I know you do. Please like this. Please share this video. You know, just take 2 minutes to do this. And I know lots of people ask you to do this, you know, because I'm listening to some, they say, please do it. From my end, the more you share this video with your friends and family, what happens is that Facebook says, oh, look at this, people like this guy, and they make me more accessible to others. And I'm not selling anything. This is just to reach more people. So help me make a difference in the world. And please like this page, like this thing, and share the video with your tribe, whoever that is. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.